We'll save it in the edit. That's your phrase, man. That's a good phrase. We'll save it in the edit.
Saved in the edit.
This is Neighbors IRL, a weekly challenge podcast hosted by Eddie Sang and Daryl Lee. This week's challenge: no added sugar. So following up on last week's great exposition on deservedness, games, fairness, very slightly entitlement, my first impression when I first started listening to the cut of us talking about deservedness, I was like, oh man, this is gonna be pretty bad. But when I listened to it, I was pleasantly surprised
The cut
at
saved us.
the amount of points that we brought up and the diversity at which we tried to attempt to tackle this. But I think, me and yourself, we can both be very rigid and free and open-minded at the same time. So I think our discussion on that was a little more rigid than it ought to be. Like, I think we both should have a little bit more of an open mind at the end. And I really enjoyed, explaining myself. And at the end, you threw in that point where we're not in control of, our body and our mind as much as we would like it to be.
Topic for another day.
But, in relationship to the topic of deservedness and whether that is even a thing to begin with.
Yeah, is it even a word? Deservedness. It is a word. Deservedness. Adjective. Justifiably or rightly earned. Merited. One thing I think both of us could do better on is like fully listening and understanding what the other person is saying during that discussion. I found like at certain points we were just repeating our points because like we didn't quite 100% understand what the other person was saying. And I think for me at least, it was a combination of both. It's like a complex topic where you're trying to listen to the other person's point of view, and we didn't prepare much for that conversation, so we were explaining it on the fly. So on the edit, it sounds better than what it was in the raw conversation. And like sometimes parsing through all the vocal mishaps and slip-ups and mistakes, and then like trying to come up with a coherent flowing statement on the fly is really hard. And it's a lot harder to follow in real time. Like that's why I had a little bit of trouble editing it, because like for a good 6 minutes at one point, we just both kept saying the same thing.
I think
with like slightly different words, but it was the exact same thing. And like at some points it felt like, for example, like I would say the same thing and you would understand it, but I would say it again. But yeah.
I think that topic in particular is very different than all the other topics that we usually talk about, because that topic that we talked about, it's a completely arbitrary thing. It's a very abstract concept. There's very little, attachment to the world. Like now that I go back and think about it,
it's like trying to say we're both looking at a piece of watermelon right now, and we can both agree it's red. But how can we convey that the red I'm seeing is the same as the red you're seeing?
Definitely. I think also because we didn't prepare as much as we'd like to for this topic, I think it's fine. But I think we were trying to reach for very particular words that...
And the words don't even mean the same thing to like both of us. Like when you started talking about like factors and...
Right. What I'm saying is there were certainly better words that we could have used.
Yeah.
And we were just trying to grasp for them as we were trying to talk.
Yeah.
But we never hit the mark.
No, I don't think we quite settled the whole thing.
Is your stance still the same?
My stance is still the same. I mean, if there is more luck than skill in that Venn diagram or your pie graph as to what factors came into the victory, then they didn't deserve the victory, especially in like a best of one scenario. Or like, remember when I said, for skilled games, the less exposure time to the opponent's skills, the more upsets or non-deserved victories can happen. And I stand by that. And I do agree with you. Like, over a 150-minute soccer game, yeah, then there's probably more skill than luck at that point. And they probably deserved it if there wasn't some, like, weird quirk of the game.
Right. And to sum up my arguments, what I was trying to say was that when playing a mostly fair game, I believe that there's enough time or enough like exposure in the game where skill is involved more over luck and parts of luck in the course of the whole game, that they all sum up to the end result.
And that end result must be fair then.
Yes,
I agree.
And that
I think we both have the same opinion, but we're just coming at it at different points of view with different words. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty neat. But the big but.
I don't think the word deserve to win.
It's
I would
not-
say topic,
it's
like
not up for debate.
a concept that even exists. I think deserve to win is like those words and the meaning that carries behind those words even matter.
What do you mean by that?
Because deserve to win is very...
It's like a loaded statement.
Yes, it's a very loaded statement. Like, you wouldn't say that in court. Like, did this person deserve to die or deserve to live? Like, it's a very... There's a lot of, like, intangible values that go with that word. And I think it's a very strong word when we are putting it in relationship to games, and when we're putting it in relationship to putting it in around our hobbies, around victories and losses, I think, and relating that to cheating, relating that to luck, and I can't think of a better way to put it than you did. It's a very loaded statement, and I don't think that loaded statement should be used to begin with.
What would you use instead? Let's say there was a victory condition in which I believe there was more luck involved than skill, and I don't think it was justified. How would you describe your feelings at that moment?
I think the proper phrase should be should have won or should have lost. Because
okay, that's fair.
At times, I think, or where you're trying to come from when you say that phrase, deserve to win, I think there's a very big disregard for your opponent in those scenarios, and disregard of your own personal skill. Because deserve to win doesn't factor into momentum, it doesn't factor into how closely matched you are. And I don't think that deserve to win or deserve to lose is a reasonable statement to use any part of the time.
It's too loaded for you. It's like shouting, "You're racist" to somebody. It's just too loaded.
I think so. I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, I'll agree with you.
Do you see my points?
I can understand without condemning nor condoning your viewpoint.
I
understand.
Thank you. Is there anything...
Where I did lose you,
okay,
both last week and listening again, is when you said the statement, "Create your own luck." That is when I think the vocabulary just teared apart, and I went from tilt to full tilt.
Okay. I will agree that I don't use it in the traditional way. I use that phrase in a way that it's like creating your own fate. If I say that, would it tilt you less?
Creating your own outcomes, yeah.
Yeah. So there's another example.
Luck has a very specific definition.
For example, if you're a comedian and you're an amateur comedian, so you're not very big, you perform 5 days a week. And every single time you perform, there's about 10 people in the audience every single time. It just so happens that one of those days, a talent scout was in the audience, and it was even less than usual audience. So creating your own fate or luck in that scenario would just be like, if you're an amateur comedian, you should be working your butt off like all the time. And the one time you take it easy, maybe not give your best performance, could be the time that the talent scout is in the audience. But that was all due to luck. You couldn't have predicted that. So it's sort of like a phrase I like to use, which it sort of has a connotation of trying to tame the untamable. And I think that's where it tilts you.
It tilts me the same way as when people use begs the question incorrectly. I don't think you think what the statement means is actually what it means, but...
Sorry, can I do a Control F and replace all with all my begs the question with... What's a better phrase?
Raises
the question.
Yeah. Yeah.
An ad hoc ergo
ad hominem fallacy. Oh, sir, you've attacked my strawman. I'm gonna have to take 20 points off of you. See, audience, this would make sense if you knew about logical fallacies and you were a true internet troll. You also have to realize that half the things we're saying is very not serious, and
they're super.
I realize it's very hard for everyone to tell when I'm joking or not. For example, the entitled millennial bit I do, I just think it's hilarious that old people are so mad at our generation for no reason. Like they just want to have reasons to be mad. The thing is, I understand it's not healthy to do things ironically. So for example, you start a hate subreddit and you become ironic and support, a certain president, ironically. And then all of a sudden, people think you're serious and turns out. But I think it's pretty funny, being ironic.
I can't remember this quote, but you might have heard of this before. If one acts like an idiot to start like a community, my execution's so bad, but if you act like an idiot in jest, you'll attract people who think they're with the right or proper company.
Yeah.
That's the quote, like around paraphrased. Yeah.
But I still think it's hilarious to be super ironic. All right, can we start the show now? Let's actually start the show. I might actually leave it in. Some of it was good. We'll save it in the edit. Anyways, what are we talking about? Restaurants.
Dude, that was so interesting. That was like actually one of the most
interesting things I've said.
Okay, well,
setting aside the fact that turns out we don't know how to bowl.
No, okay, here. Okay, Daryl just the mic didn't capture it, but Daryl explained how a certain nuance in bowling, and I think that it's really hard to appreciate the level of some sports unless you have someone just like tell you blatantly what's actually happening slowly. For example, I always thought baseball was kind of a really boring sport, but there's all these psychological sort of like mind games going on between the pitcher, the batter, the baseman, the coaches in the dugout who are giving, signals to the players and like certain strategies that you'll want to do to be aggressive or to be defensive or to try to shut out someone. And I think it's really hard to appreciate those things unless someone's telling you play by play, moment by moment, exactly what's happening. And I think this goes with other sports like bowling. Like I always thought bowling was such a one-dimensional sport. Like I can't appreciate it at all.
Bowling's it's so boring. It's the same thing over and over again. You take a ball, you knock down some pins on a lane. How hard can it be?
Yeah, until someone like you who is trying to get into like, an enthusiast level, you got your own shoes, you got your own balls, and then you're trying to explain to someone how that power is supposed to be generated. And I don't know if you're going to leave all this in, but that is super, super interesting to me. As to like the individual mechanics that go behind what makes like a high level, that makes the commoner man's game a high level sport, or take it to the high level.
Have you seen this Vox video, the hidden oil patterns of bowling lanes?
No,
it has 2 million views. Everyone's seen this. I'll put it in the show notes.
Well,
there's so much more to bowling than you'll ever be able to know or appreciate. And me too.
Can you just give the audience just a snippet, like the like the lane and that sort of stuff? Just give it like a 30-second shout out.
For the oil?
No, for like, the extra nuances that go with bowling that people might not know.
There's no way I'm going to be able to explain any of it.
30 no, seconds. Not just like the topics, like what someone at a high level takes into consideration.
Well, the biggest thing after you work out your own mechanics is literally the oil on the lane. Because the thing is, there's oil on a bowling lane to like help protect the lane and to help the ball slide in speed and hook properly. The problem is, as you're bowling, the oil changes because the ball picks up the oil, throws it down the lane, and you have to be able to account for it without seeing the oil. So literally every shot in bowling is different. And that is something that is hard to both convey to the audience and like even convey how it changes the game, because it's invisible and it's 100% a feel thing. And especially at our level of bowling, it literally doesn't matter.
If you're
but when you're a professional, it's the entire game.
See, that is interesting right
and
there.
Depending on how the oil is laid on the bowling lane will make the lane 100% more harder or literally throw strikes for you. So in like the bowling league in your neighborhood, they usually lay a house pattern. And what that is like there's a lot of oil in the middle and not a lot of oil on the outside. So if you missed the outside and you like put a little bit of spin on the ball, it'll hook back into the center. If you shoot to center, that's fine because there's a lot of oil in there. So you'll stay center.
Right.
But for the pros, they just get a glob of oil thrown onto the entire lane. So if you miss right, you miss right by a lot. If you miss left, you miss left by a lot. So that's why their games are a lot harder.
Mm.
And then not only that, again, the oil's constantly changing. So you're going to have to move left and right. You're going to have to aim left and right. You're going to have to use different balls that behave differently depending on the oil pattern. And none of this can be seen. Just go watch the Vox video. I think it was a very interesting explainer.
So basically every single shot is like a compensation from the previous shot, or like for the previous shot.
Yes. And they usually lay down oil like maybe once a day, and if it's like a high level competition, like in between sets of games. So if you're playing at the end of like 10 games that professionals have already played on and ate up all the oil, then it's a really hard game to play. Anyways, none of this will matter if for your general bowling night, because you're just using a house ball that can't even hook. So
yeah, so this is all all that nuance.
Yeah.
I love hearing the details.
Yeah, I enjoy it too, and which is why I like good commentators for sports. I think a good commentator can make or break a game. Like I understand for people who are well versed in the sport and like can see all these little details that all the professionals are taking into account. The commentators can get annoying. It's like, oh, he's just saying what I already know, or he's just saying like a useless advertisement, or he's saying something wrong. That's the worst a commentator can do, to be wrong to the professionals. But I think a good commentator can be both entertaining to the professionals, or at least not annoying, and can bring people who are newer to the sport or game a deeper level of understanding or explanation of what's happening. And it will give them a deeper appreciation for what the professionals are doing. This is why I'm confused. Like I've been to a live hockey game before. I'm not a hockey guy. Been to like 2 NFL games in my life.
Right.
And there was no commentators. Like, what's happening, guys? What period are you in? Where's the dribbling? Is there a foul? What is a crossover?
See,
I didn't know anything about hockey.
That's really distracting in live game, because if you're in a live game, all you hear is, well, it's this person's game to lose, and all
yeah,
that stuff,
I can
right?
see
it'll sway like.
Yeah, for the players, it'd be difficult to focus on the game.
But I
like
think
you already have the crowd like distracting you. But if you have a commentator saying it's like, oh, this sports guy is 50 years old. This may be his last year. Let's see if he can live up and like retire well. Like that
right.
Again with the factors, that's too much pressure being put on him to perform well.
That's why
But I think what if here's my proposed solution.
Right.
What if there was like a radio channel you can tune into with some commentary, and like you just put in one headphone in one ear and then like watch the sports with the other ear.
I honestly wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty neat.
I would like that live sort of entertainment as well if I'm watching a live show. But also that's why it's called the tail of the tape, because the only time that the commentators will be heard will be on the reviews or on the history of that game, but not live as the people in the audience are watching it. Daryl, it is widely known that you love bowling.
I mean,
it is also widely known that you are a man that loves fishing. Would you consider fishing a sport?
All right, well, in being asked about definitions, my first resource is Wikipedia. So, sport from Wikipedia includes all forms of competitive physical activities or games which, through casual or organized participation, aims to use, maintain, or improve physical ability and skills while providing enjoyment to participants and, in some cases, entertainment for spectators.
Can you compete in fishing?
Yeah, there's fishing tournaments.
But how can you compete in fishing?
You're asking the wrong person.
It is
fishing tournaments.
It is
how
widely
do
known
they work?
that you love fishing, as you are going fishing tomorrow. What is your enjoyment between? Can you contrast your enjoyment between bowling and fishing?
That's pretty hard. See, here's the thing. As we talked about with John Wick, I don't know why I like the things I like. I just like them. And you're asking for, in terms of fishing tournaments, you're asking the wrong guy how fishing tournaments work. Like, I'm seeing there's a Wikipedia article about fishing tournaments and there's like a professional association. So I'm assuming it's a thing. And like, I don't know, score is awarded for each fish caught. The points are awarded depends on fish's weight and species. But like, going back to the deserving topic, I think, there may be a bit more luck. Maybe there's some skill I can't see, like bowling. You didn't even know that there was oil on the bowling lane and that it can change. So maybe there's a lot I can't see here, but I mean, it seems like there may be a bit more luck associated with this fishing tournament. In terms of contrasting my enjoyment, I think bowling is one of those things where, well, fishing as well. It's not the type of sport where you're competing against another team. You're just competing against the physical environment. You're trying to best both the physical environment and best the skills you've brought to the table before. Like, that's the definition of improvement. So for bowling, it's all about getting higher scores or like being able to read the lane better, whatever. And for fishing, it's just learning the skills necessary to be able to catch fish easier and enjoy it. In terms of my personal enjoyment for both, I really don't know why I like either. I remember I like Ron Swanson's from Parks and Recreation. You ever watch that show?
No.
He describes where is it? He describes fishing as meditation, but in the end he still gets to kill something. No. Fishing relaxes me. It's like yoga, except I still get to kill something.
Nice. It is.
I think for me, fishing is just like relaxing. It's like meditation or like yoga. Like I'm just sitting there enjoying the outdoor nature, trying to catch a fish. And I think another reason for the enjoyment for fishing is since I don't have that level of skill, it's more about luck for me. Yeah, I know how to bait a hook and throw it in, use a floater and reel it. Wow, I must sound like a fishing novice to some fishing expert who may listen to this someday. But it is that random reinforcement that humans find so addicting is why I think I like fishing. Because it is enjoyable to catch a fish, but it's at my skill level, it's completely random when that will happen.
It's a slot machine.
It's a slot machine
in the form of
it's nature's slot machine for me.
A slot machine designed in the form of a lake.
Yeah, and bowling, I don't know. My parents were really into it. I grew up like always being at bowling alleys, waiting for them to do the tournaments. And I guess I'm just becoming my parents. Turns out.
It is also widely known that you like guns, Daryl. Combining guns and fishing, and what do you get? You get hunting. Would you ever go hunting?
Have you been hunting before? Yeah, I've been hunting before.
Did you enjoy hunting?
I enjoyed it. It's again one of those sports where it's you versus the environment again. So you're not facing off against anyone, or like you're not directly competing and interfering with other people's ability to play the game. And yeah, I don't know why I enjoy it. Again, there's this whole can of worms of like whether or not hunting is a ethical thing to do. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I just enjoy the things I enjoy. And I don't know why.
I think you put it in the best way possible. I don't think you could have put it in a better way. You versus the conditions of the environment. I think that sums up a lot of fishing and hunting. And while I did do fishing a while ago, I did it again and I was like, I don't really enjoy it as much as I thought I did. And when I put all the time, the resources, and subjecting myself to those conditions, no, it's not my thing. But hearing you talk about it again, I have like a little better understanding of what exactly ticks in the mind of a person who likes fishing. It's me versus the environment, and I like that.
Nature's slot machine.
Nature's slot machine.
There was a really good Vsauce video about games, and he explains the differences between toys, challenges, puzzles, conflicts, challenges, and competitions. I'll link it in the show notes. I think you should watch it.
I have watched it before. I really enjoyed that video.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about, is it like really?
I think it relates.
Games? Is it?
I don't think we're quite doing games. I think the hobbies I'm into are more challenges. Like again, me versus the environment.
Right.
It's me versus how well I can, bait the fish. It's me versus how well I can throw the ball against the lane, against the pins. It's me versus how well I can shoot the clay pigeon. And I think for me, there's a little bit of regret in the fact that I don't like traditional sport games, like me versus someone else, or like a team that I'm on versus another team. Like, this is a very nerdy way to say like soccer, basketball, like hockey. Because I think activities and games is something that should be part of every healthy person's lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And the hobbies that I'm into are a lot harder to be able to do. Like, it's easier to go in a random field and kick a soccer ball around with a couple friends than to drive to a bowling lane with your own bowling balls and your own bowling shoes and like either play in a league or wait for the league to finish. Don't get me started on like where's the closest clay shooting place in like in Markham.
In Toronto, in Markham.
Yeah, so we talked about this before. Where, like judo compared to basketball. Like there's no pickup judo, but there's pickup basketball, and I wish I was into more mainstream activities, but I'm not. I'm not.
That you're looking for is barrier to entry.
Yeah.
Does that sum up?
Yeah, like the sports that I am into have higher barriers of entry. Like fishing, you gotta need a fishing rod and like learn how to bait a hook and like learn which fishing spots to go.
But I don't think in terms of minimum enjoyment that you need to surpass such a huge barrier to entry to at least enjoy, like getting to enjoy some like the tip of some of these sports. Sure, like driving out to a gun range or a bowling alley might be difficult for some people, but I think that once you're there, that minimum level of enjoyment or the minimum level of barrier entry that you use to enjoy, I don't think it's particularly as high as one would think.
Yeah, when you kind of get set up for an activity or a sport, yeah, of course it's a lot easier. Like even with soccer, it's like better to play with soccer cleats and like shin guards,
right?
And like a proper Under Armour jersey and everything. But it's not only the barriers of entry in terms of like travel distance and physical items needed to enjoy a hobby. For like my jealousy for mainstream activities, it's like widespreadness or like ubiquity.
Right.
Like more people will be playing basketball as a hobby than bowling. And especially if you don't have someone to introduce you to a sport, it's hard to get into in any area. Like contrasting Calgary to Markham, I shot a lot more firearms in Calgary because there was a community there that can like cultivate like a group to do the activity. Whereas in Markham, there's less people. I don't know anyone personally who's like a close distance to shoot with, so I just don't shoot as much. I guess that's why I really like bowling in Markham. A lot of people who can tolerate my bowling hobby. One more thing I wanted to talk about in terms of like the hidden aspects of sport. Have you listened to the 99% Invisible episode, The Sound of Sport?
I have not. I'm going through.
I'll put it in the show notes. Eddie. You are gonna have the best time in the show notes this week.
I try to go through podcasts chronologically. So, and there's a lot.
I suggest you do the Brady Heron method, where you kind of scroll back and pick episodes that pique your interest in terms of the title and description.
Oh, that was an amazing bit.
Yeah, no, I think that's a superior way to listen to chronologically doesn't make sense, especially when you're going through the archives. But for this 99% Invisible, The Sound of Sport, they go through the painstaking work it takes to deliver sound to sports television cast. A lot of people, they see the sports on TV and they say, okay, well, the visuals are there. Good. But as we know, as sound people, we know it's the sound that really makes a good sportscast. Now, think about like an NBA game. Think about where the cameras are located around the stadium, like right. just a bit from their episode, like I found really interesting. Even though the cameras are in the audience, you can hear the sneakers squeaks.
Yeah,
you can hear the ball bouncing. You can hear the ball shooting through the hoop and like bouncing off the backboard and through the net. And how do they capture that sound? They don't just have microphones everywhere.
Do they have a little man in the back room who's hitting a soundboard? Just like, eat, eat,
yeah, so
boom,
for
boom, boom.
some sports, it is samples and soundboards and like, I don't know what the sequencer button or like the like a keyboard basically, like redoing, like synthesizing the sound to sync up with the visuals. And for some other sports, they actually place microphones everywhere. So, horse racing, there's microphones all over the stadium. Or like bow and arrow competition in the Olympics, they have a contact mic, or excuse me, they have a ground mic along the path of the arrow to capture that sound. Or gymnastics, they have a contact mic on the balance bar, so you can hear the athletes' hands as they grapple and bounce off the balance beam. So there is a 5-minute excerpt that I've linked and a full 1-hour piece on how sound is captured in sports. And it is one of the most interesting pieces of audio production.
See, normally I don't really like go through the show notes as much and listen to our own show. Yeah, even for our own show, like even for most of other shows. But that actually sounds really, really interesting. I think I'm very interested in very minute specifics.
Yeah, you're a details man, 100%.
But I have to be interested in what the topic is beginning with. As you well know, we were once talking about The Bachelorette, and I was not interested at all. You're like, wow, isn't that interesting? Like those specific details that go on the back. I was like, no, I don't care.
So you're only interested in details that you're interested in.
Yep.
By definition.
I embrace my human flaws. I embrace my human natures. It is just a passing thought.
For that Bachelorette example.
No, let's not talk about that.
No. The reason why I find it so interesting is that, all these reality TV shows and like reality competitions, they're selling you on the idea of real. But once you peek behind that curtain, you see nothing but a pack of lies and hypocrisy.
Well,
and that's what I find interesting.
Isn't that sort of obvious to begin with?
No. If you asked a typical person who just watches television, they'll think what happens on a reality show is 100% representative of what happened in real life. Why would you think otherwise? But if you really think about it, and the amount of effort and techniques it takes to produce something that feels real, that's what interests me. Synthesized realness.
It's like those It's like the sneaker.
It's like the sneakers.
There's a little tiny man in a close-up room just hitting buttons on a launch pad, and he's like, boom, 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 sneaker, 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 swish.
Challenge.
This week's challenge was to not ingest additive sugar. Now, whether it was a cold turkey sort of thing, whether you could use alternatives was completely up to interpretation. I did not set any rules for this.
You gotta stop doing that, by the way.
Well, how did you do, Daryl? What did you do and how did you do?
Overall, it is very hard to not eat sugar in your life because of the availability of it. And obviously our bodies are physically addicted to this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We crave it. And I'm looking at a list here of sugar items I've eaten over the week. Half of them were on accident and half of them were on purpose. Purpose ones are usually like snacks or like at Gabine they give the little candies at the end of the meal. You can't end a Gabine meal without those candies.
Nice self-control, buddy.
And like the worst one was when there was brownies in the snack room. And this was in the morning. I didn't eat breakfast, so I just ate a brownie, and I was very hungry that day.
You know how many Timbits I rejected this week?
That's not my problem that your office is filled with Timbits. Okay. There's also like what we consider healthy snacks like fruits or like banana bread.
Yeah.
Still have a lot of sugar.
And
then today when we were at Pacific Mall together, I accidentally had a ice cream taro dessert, which is, by the way, one of the best desserts.
I thought you knew, and I was like, all right, well, if you're doing it, I guess I'm doing it.
Honestly forgot about it today. I was very conscious of it, and then today, for some reason, I completely forgot. But overall, this week I had 7 sugar-related slip-ups, incidents. Those are the ones I caught. So 1 per day. I mean, not too bad.
How did not having sugar make you feel? Did it make you feel any different?
Honestly,
how about your perception of food?
I've made a conscious effort in the last couple of years to cut back on sugar. Like, I don't drink any more soda. I don't add sugar to my caffeinated drinks anymore. And I honestly don't feel a noticeable difference, but I'm sure it's a lot healthier for me. And one thing I really hate, I don't know if there's like data or a graph on this somewhere.
Okay.
But I've noticed, for example, on the cans of Cokes, the 355 millimeter cans of Coke, they have the nutrition label on the back.
Okay.
And there is a section like carbs, sugar, and it lists the grams of sugar. It's been steadily climbing year after year in the Canadian market. Now, I'm sure it's like some like chief of tasting officer's job to like cater to the North American taste. And apparently they just want more and more sugar every year. But I don't want to drink syrup if I'm going to drink soda. I just want a nice ginger sugary drink. I don't want to drink ginger syrup. So what I've had to do is cut half soda, half water, and add lemon juice.
Lemon juice.
And I think that replicates the taste of the past, or the taste that I'm looking for before all this like sugar trend started climbing up and up. I'm sure there's a graph somewhere about this, but like ginger ale when I was a kid, 22 grams of sugar per can. Now it's like 38 grams of sugar in a can. I don't want to drink 38 grams of sugar.
It's not even sugar. It's like corn
syrup.
Yeah.
High fructose corn syrup. But enough about me. Eddie, how was your sugar weekly journey?
I honestly almost...
Oh, and I just ate watermelon just now. Turns out.
Well, watermelon has sugar in it, but it's not like... It's a conscious decision to eat a fruit, not like have a fruit and then sprinkle it with sugar after. That's how I interpreted the challenge.
From what I know, fruits are a lot less healthier for you than you think. Just like milk is a lot less healthier for you than you think. Yeah. Because of, all the complications with like food being an industry and like needing to make money and all that, and their advertisement campaigns. But anyways, please keep telling me about your journey. Sorry for interrupting.
No.
My good sir.
That's how I interrupt. That's how I interpreted the challenge. Is that anything that I eat should not have an extra, sprinkle of sugar on the top. So if I'm consciously making the decision to eat a fruit, no sugar added. If I'm consciously making the decision to drink a coffee or a tea, no sugar in that.
But how would you feel about, say, ketchup? I don't know if you know this, but ketchup is basically vinegar tomato syrup.
Did I eat a burger this week? I don't think so. I did try staying away from a lot of Asian sauces, because a lot of Asian sauces has sugar in them.
Yes, that is indeed true.
I tried to. So
this is the problem. There's sugar in everything. It's like trying to avoid carbohydrates. It's like an impossible challenge.
It is impossible. That's why I left it up to interpretation. But I think that it's something that like your taste palates need to adjust to. Yeah. We're just so used to being in a society where the cakes are the most decadent, rich, butter-filled sugar spectacle that we've ever tasted, and the drinks, you never stop drinking them. And so I think this is a fine challenge to try to get our bodies to realize that it's not all just a sugary wonderland. Sometimes restraint is needed, like self-control, restraint, the ability to say no to some things.
Moderation.
Yeah, sugar in moderation. Yeah. I think that I almost succeeded in this challenge all the way to the 11th hour. Good friend of the show, who's never listens to the show.
Then he can't be a friend
Andy
of the show.
Dang. We went to a flea market today, and in this flea market, they were selling smoothies. And the way that they were selling these smoothies was that they would take a whole lump or a stick of sugar cane, and they had a machine that pressed out that sugar in the sugar cane.
Oh my, that must be delicious.
Into,
I can just imagine it. My taste buds just activated with like a phantom cane sugar taste.
Yeah.
Tasty.
And then Andy ordered some Viet fruit. He told me the name of it and I forgot it instantly. And then he put the drink in my face and said, "You gotta try this. This is amazing."
You can't reject an offer like that.
I could not and did not and will not refuse that. I had to drink it. And honestly, it was the sweetest thing I've tasted this whole entire week. My brain, I had to fight it. I classified that drink in the same category as crack cocaine. Now, this is like a CGP grade thing. So if you listen to Hello Internet, this will be the thing.
It's the dopamine release.
I am a responsible adult. I will not take crack cocaine. Therefore, I am a responsible adult, so I should not take the sugarcane smoothie.
Yeah, that's not as crazy as it sounds on surface. That is not an entirely illogical method of thinking about it.
Yeah. So, and that was at like 2 p.m. today. So in the 11th hour, I failed.
You tried your best. You tried your absolute.
I thought I did a decent job trying, rejecting. I rejected retirement cake. I rejected Timbits.
I can't believe you rejected the retirement cake, Eddie. Retirement cake?
Retirement cake. The sweetest cake of all.
This man's been working for 50 plus years of his life.
Lifers,
and all he wanted to share with you is a piece of sweet, delicious cake.
Rejected.
That culminated his years of experience and hard work that he's put in. And you straight out rejected it. You entitled millennial. Go eat your avocado toast.
So, personally, I think I'm gonna do extended spree on this. Where I used to budget my sugar was 1 sugary drink a day. If I drank 1 sugary drink a day, that would be my limit.
P.S. I hope you realize that's a lot of sugar.
That is a lot of sugar. But as long as I was constrained to that, I thought I was okay. But not having sugar, you won't die if you were suddenly banned from all the soft drinks in the world. So what I'm going to try to do is an extended sugary protest. Once in a while, maybe just a little bit of sugar. But other than that, very, very little to no sugar. I want to see where it goes.
Yeah.
I want to see if it makes you feel better. I want to see if I can taste things better. Or at least taste things differently. It's like having less salt, right? I don't whether or not that's
you gotta retrain your
thing.
taste buds.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point you brought up, like the retraining of the taste buds and like taking a little bit to think about like what should actually be normal and what should be moderation. And I'm wondering what the Venn diagram of like influences for this is. Like one, for sure, we're getting more educated on what makes a healthier food option or like a food environment or food diet, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And the other one is like I think as we grow up, our taste buds change and like evolve. So I'm wondering like how much of it is just us growing up and how much of it is us getting more educated. Like as a kid, I remember thinking, why do the adults not like cake? Who can reject cake? Like it's cake.
It's not
But as an adult now, it's like, well, sometimes you don't need the cake. Sometimes you can do without the cake.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can do it without feeling crappy for the next
when you're
little bit.
When you're 8 years old, not having cake will kill you. But when you're,
Like almost literally,
when you're an adult, not
having cake might kill you.
Yeah.
Turns out. You've issued an audiobook challenge before.
Right.
And I'm returning the favor. I am reissuing a favorite of mine. It is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yeah,
Okay.
Give it a listen. Let me know of your thoughts next week. And I'll just leave off by saying this is one of my favorite books, and I re-listen to it every couple of months or so. And I think you will enjoy it too.
Okay. I will spend my Audible credit towards this book, and we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
Maybe we can finally win some friends.